I want to welcome Agile XRM to the podcast. I've known the people at Agile XRM for the past 12 years. I've seen how their business process management tool can add massive value to complex organizational processes in sectors such as finance and government. If you have complex processes or a need for dialogues on the Power Platform or Dynamics 365, take a look at how this BPM tool can add value. You can find them at agilexrm.com or check out the show notes for more details. Welcome to the Power Platform Show. Thanks for joining me today. I hope today's guest inspires and educates you on the possibilities of the Microsoft Power Platform. Now, let's get on with the show. Today's guest is from Huddersfield, England, in the United Kingdom. He is a low-code practice general manager at A&S Group. He specializes in low-code platform and ecosystems at scale, including expertise on customer success, adoption, change management, and digital transformation. He's worked for Mendix. He's passionate about Dynamics 365, Dynamics CRM, and, of course, the Power Platform front and center. You can find links to his bio and social media in the show notes for this episode. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Thank you very much, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here. You do know I'm not an MVP, though, don't you?
I didn't say that, did I?
No. You didn't. But I only thought you used to have MVPs on when I used to listen to your show back in the day.
Yeah, it never started with MVPs. That's the thing. It never started there. It always started. My first episode was with a partner out of, I think, Denmark. And I went a whole year and a half of interviewing folks that were, like James Phillips from Microsoft, all the kind of senior people, Charles Lamanna wasn't where he was now, but him, Ryan, and a whole range of them. And then I was like, I'm really enjoying this. I want to go to 2 shows a week. And that's when I introduced the MVP show and just focused on business application MVPs. And I thought I'd run out, right? But the thing is that new MVPs keep coming. They've got new stories. They're unique. They're from different geographies. So yeah, the business application podcast started with all comers before I then did that MVP show separately.
Yeah, it's always been a show that I've always listened to. So I mean, I'd regularly go out for a walk to take my mind for a bit of a chat, and I'd listen to just one of the podcasts while walking. Nice. So it's it's part of the life of a consultant in the Dynamics area for sure.
I love it. So who is Jason? Where and what do you do? Food, family, and fun. I always like the audience to get to know you personally before we jump into your tech roles.
Yeah, great question. And I always like the food, family, and fun. I even incorporate that in getting to know our team as well. So we regularly run spotlights, and it's always food, family, and fun.
Do you know there's a fourth one? There's a fourth one.
Is it a fourth one? What's the fourth one?
Friends. And that came up yesterday randomly. I said, tell me about food, family, and friends. And I was like, where did that come from? And
yeah, where did that come from?
Well, some believe there's a fifth one, but it's not for general viewership. So
I can imagine, and I think that's open to
it's
to people making up the fifth one.
Exactly. It's more the conversation at the bar rather than on the podcast. So yeah,
absolutely. But let's start with food. Quite like a wide range of different food, from Italian food, Chinese food, Indian food. Probably more of a spicy guy more than anything else, if I'm honest. But
curry.
I do like a good curry. Lived in Reading as well for 12 years, and found a great Reading restaurant in Reading. And basically, there's a great Indian gravy called, probably pronouncing this wrong from my Yorkshire accent, so apologies to anybody that I might have upset, but called chicken catenado, and it's like a really spicy gravy.
Nice.
Absolutely beautiful with really tender chicken. So do like spicy food, but coming from Yorkshire, you've always got to go for good old traditional hearty food as well. Do like a large Yorkshire pudding, filled with anything at all, Mark. So that's probably the food. Coming from family, I've got a beautiful wife, Gemma, of 12 years. And got one son, Hugo. He's just turned age 11, so pretty much keeps me on my toes. Yeah, I think because he's the only child, I'm probably the guy that he argues with the most. Yeah, because he doesn't have any other siblings to argue with, so regularly argues with me, and to the annoyance of my wife. So, and then in terms of fun, I quite enjoy. I'm a sporty guy, so I quite enjoy sport. I prefer probably playing a wide variety of different sports than watching, even though I do watch sports as well. So even though I'm probably way past it, still play five-a-side football with my friends on a Monday.
Wow.
Swim, enjoy running, cycling, and to be honest, most of my fun these days is pretty much just taxiing my son around to do all these other different sports as well. I mean, the amount of different sports that children have got exposure to now. I mean, back in my day, it was quite limited. You were either running or you were just swimming or you play football or you play rugby. But now, I mean, my son is doing parkour, he's doing all sorts of different things. So that's pretty much what takes up most of my time, which is fun. Seeing your own children grow and enjoy all these different things.
Well, out of that introduction, I have so many questions. Question number one, you lived in Reading for 12 years?
I did live in Reading for 12 years,
How did you survive living in Reading? Like, honestly, I was asked, would I go when, because Microsoft was out there when I was considering going to the UK, and I'm like, I would never, ever, sorry to anybody that loves Reading, but live in Reading.
We still go down. We still go down now. I mean, I met my wife. Well, first of all, why would I live in I live in Huddersfield, so if you've seen Huddersfield,
I've not seen Huddersfield. There's
nice areas and good areas of everywhere, Mark, as you well know. But I pretty much went down to Reading because that was the IT hub, essentially. That M4 corridor is what it was called. Yep. You had Microsoft there, you had SAP there, you had Oracle there.
All out of the CBD, right? Everybody out of the CBD and out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I actually joined a partner that was down there, but it was a Lotus Notes partner.
Wow.
And I ended up just moving down there for, that's probably a different story. There's probably even more questions. Wow. Absolutely. How long have we got? Yeah. I joined a Lotus Notes partner that were based in Reading. So I basically moved to Reading. And then, I spent pretty much, this is probably now pretty much going into my career, but I spent 5 years as a Lotus Notes developer, building solutions on Lotus Notes, Lotus Domino, and all sorts of good things like that. I actually looked it up in terms of ChatGPT as well. What was the first low-code platform? And if you actually put it into ChatGPT, it actually says Lotus Notes was traditionally probably the first low-code platform.
Did I tell you that there's no swearing allowed on this podcast? Classic.
Is that because it's now part of IBM, Mark? Is that what it is?
No.
Or it used to be part of IBM, didn't it?
As in, you wouldn't believe it. I've been in IBM about 2 years, 4 or 5 months, and when I joined, Lotus Notes was still the email system. And
I heard your podcast that said it.
And the fanatics in here that just loved it. And I'm like, because this is the thing, is it called Stockholm Syndrome, where you start to, you only see everything. And, well, the thing is that what I noticed with coming into IBM is that they think, I better be careful. I still work for them. What I say, they think their stuff is so amazing. And I'm like, it's so amazing because they actually don't know what's outside. It's like, if you've been fed tripe all your life and you think, all the different ways you can make tripe is just the best thing to eat, and you've never tasted ice cream, you've never had bacon, you've never had everything else in the world, and you just think, this is the best thing. And it's just like, oh my gosh, they have no idea of concept of personal productivity with tool sets like M365 because they've never touched them and experienced them because it was such a controlled ecosystem inside the company. And it just blows my mind, the fanatics.
Imagine what it was like having that toolkit. Now, but imagine having that toolkit back in the 1980s, where you could literally just spin up a Lotus Notes, kind of like database. Was it a database? Probably wasn't a database, You could just spin it up and you just literally just build anything. I'd build HR systems. I'd build, tracking people's holiday, tracking all sorts of things. You'd build contact relationship management systems, which then turn into CRMs. So literally, you could just build anything, which to this day is pretty much exactly the same as the Power Platform. So it's as if my whole career is it was quite strange because I was working for a company. I was seconded to a company building solutions for this large German pharmaceutical company on Lotus Notes. And then pretty much 2 years later, when I joined Mendix, one of my first customers was this company transitioning their Lotus Notes databases to Mendix.
Wow.
And it was just mind blowing. So it's just like I've just gone a full circle in my career. Yeah. I mean, I've been in IT now for essentially 2 decades, but it's quite strange seeing trends come around. And I mean, Lotus, what's it called? Lotus scripting or Lotus Notes script. Essentially, it's a little bit like PowerFX. Wow. Yeah. It's his own little modeling tool. Programming language. So it was quite interesting.
Are you saying Microsoft?
So we have completely
Microsoft took their ideas from other companies? I mean, that wouldn't go back as far as DOS, would it? No, absolutely not.
Not at all, Matt. No, Matt. Microsoft come up with all sorts of
original.
Come up with their own tools all the time. Yes. Actually, Microsoft CRM is pretty much probably one of the only tools that they've probably written from scratch, isn't it? I still call it Microsoft CRM, by the way. So I know it's D365 CE or whichever one it is called. I still call it CRM because I think I came into the market back in 2006 and it was transitioning from 1.2 to version 3. Yeah. So I had some customers, large library in Britain, you can pretty much guess the name, who were still using 1.2, transitioning over to version 3. God knows what happened to version 2. I think I read the story that they kind of canned version 2. I've been in it since version 1.2-ish.
So 2003.
Moving to 3 and then 4.
20 years.
Yeah.
So that's where I started. That's where I started. It was MS CRM back then. I've even got the logo, the original logo.
I wish I'd kept the books.
Yeah.
I can remember clearing out my desk and literally throwing all the books, which to be honest, you remember all the Sonoma Partner books? Which I shouldn't really be saying because they cost quite a lot of money at the time. Yeah. And now they'd probably be collectibles. Yeah. But I remember literally throwing them in the tip thinking, I'm never going to need this again. Yeah. And I'm just thinking, I wish I kept them for nostalgia purposes.
But even the concept of those heavy books and buying them, like, they're always big, massive, but really they got the IT industry to where it is today, back the people learning.
Of course it did. And it propped up my laptop great. It stopped me from getting neck ache.
Yeah. You can pile them up, right?
Yeah.
But
you can pile them.
Yeah. So true. Just back on Reading, one final point. I only went to Reading twice in my life. One was to do a Power Apps in a Day session when I was living in London. And the second time, which was the best time, was for a party in a house of Chris Huntingford's.
And I think he's a little bit sad of leaving Reading as well, yeah? So you saw his infamous bar and outside area and things like that. Yeah. I've got some fond memories of Reading. I really have. And I know a lot of people think, Reading? Seriously? How long do you stay there for? But there are some really nice areas. And the areas around it as well, Windsor, Oxford, the access into London. It was just, 20 minutes, 25 minutes on a train into London. It served its purpose at the time when I was in my 20s, early 30s.
I'd take the Paddington Microsoft office any day over the Reading office, Microsoft. The 90-Day Mentoring Challenge is a comprehensive program to help you take your Microsoft business application career to the next level. Since 2018, more than 790 people from 67 countries have benefited from this program. I've heard from past participants that the 90-Day Mentoring Challenge helped them advance their careers, from switching jobs, starting companies, to gaining industry recognition like MVP Award or full-time employment at Microsoft. Enrollments are currently open for the next cohort, which starts on the 1st of January, 2024. Find out more at ako.nz365guy.com. That's ako.nz365guy.com.
Yeah, I think they're even shrinking the Reading office, aren't they? I don't even think it's that large anymore. But I remember TVP, going down to TVP many times, running by the river and things. So I've got some fond memories of Reading, even though it's probably not the most glamorous place in the UK.
Microsoft even has an office up in Oxford, right?
It's even got one in Manchester. So where I'm based now, I'm based north of England, so in between Leeds and Manchester. So A&S's office are headquartered in Manchester. Microsoft have even got offices now in Manchester, so in the UA 92 building.
Wow, Manchester. Interesting town.
It certainly is. You've obviously got some stories about that one as well, Mark, yeah?
Oh, yeah, I've been to Manchester. Okay. Let's talk about how did you transition out of Notes into obviously Dynamics? And I take it was partner side you're working in?
Yeah, it was, again, good question. So finished university. I probably one of the strange ones that actually had a computing degree, computing in business. Learned Python. Thought this coding's not for me. Yeah, but I fell in love with Lotus Notes. I even did a dissertation in Lotus Notes between relational databases and non-relational databases at the time.
Wow.
So I just fell into Lotus Notes. The first partner that I went to ended up getting bought out by a company called Cyber, which were a large Microsoft partner at the time. They essentially bought. So the company that I was at were kind of like Lotus Notes, and they also did a number of other things as well. They kind of wanted to transition over into Microsoft technology then, but I wasn't quite ready for it, so I stayed in Lotus Notes. Again, just building loads of different databases and things like that. But you kind of saw. I mean, back at what would that have been? 2005. Kind of saw it's kind of coming to its end. Is Lotus Notes building databases, and I wanted to do something different. So I applied for another Microsoft partner that were based in Staines, a company called Aspective. Don't know if you remember Aspective.
Nope.
So I ended up applying for those as a Lotus Note. Sorry, not a Lotus Notes, but a Microsoft CRM. Functional consultant at the time. So I transitioned over into that role, and essentially 2006, and being in my early 20s, eager, I just threw myself into all sorts of different roles within that functional consulting role. So I'd be running workshops, I'd be shadowing like senior solution architects. I'd jump in to do data loads, and I learned Scribe. So I then became Scribe certified, did all sorts of roles. And we used to do single stream projects where I'd kind of start leading some of the projects, and I'd start building it out, and I'd do the whole thing. So when you do a single stream, you kind of then become more of a project manager as well as understanding the functional side of stuff. So my roles kind of moved from technical to project manager, back into solution architecture, then senior solution architecture, and kind of just over time, you kind of just work your way up as you've got more and more projects under your belt. So that's essentially what happened, and now I moved over into Microsoft and my journey in the Microsoft Partner Network as well.
Were most of the solutions you're building then what we called XRM solutions back then, or were they really pure play CRMs?
Combination of both, really. I didn't mind the term XRM, and I can remember Microsoft coining it in that video of basically just trawling through different things with a cow's face and all sorts of things.
I use it in the 90-day mentoring challenge.
Do you? Is it still about that video?
I've got it. Yeah,
you've got a copy of it, yeah? Because I can remember using that video as well back probably when I joined another Microsoft partner, just to explain the fact that you can actually build anything on this. Whether you should build it, it was all about using a platform, which is obviously where they came out of. But no, I mean, we ended up building like solutions and templates at the time. I can't remember which version it came out where you could actually build the templates and store them that way. I can't remember if that was version 4 or 2011. I can't quite remember. But we ended up building like templates that we'd reuse in certain sectors. So we built the private equity template on how they used it for tracking their deals and referrals and all sorts of things, to stuff that were nothing to do with contact relationship management or customer service or anything like that. So pure play XRM using the expensive license at the time, even though it wasn't expensive. It was probably £22.50 per user per month at the time when it first launched. Building all sorts of different solutions, nothing to do with contact sometimes, and you'd end up tracking. I mean, one of them went in to talk about how they could use Dynamics for tracking bull semen which is nothing to do with contacts, accounts. So it was an interesting time at that time when we used to call it XRM. I think it was called something else as well at some stage, but I can't remember what it was. XRM's the one that sticks. Yeah,
the XRM it was a concept that came out of the team, the product team, and it was smacked on the head pretty quickly. So it came and it disappeared as quickly as it came because of internal politics inside Microsoft, and that SharePoint were the low-code platform as they saw it, and there was an internal fight. My understanding, it went right up to Bill Gates at the time.
Did it?
And And so the concept of XRM was quickly knocked. So as quickly as it had grown inside Microsoft, it was knocked on the head. But like if I look at my entire career, it would easily be skewed 95% to building something else and not being a sales management system, which is the concept of CRM, right? And so,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, when the Power Platform came along, it was kind of like for years of asking for, because we wanted what back then we kept asking for was a platform SKU. We don't care for all the opportunity entity or the invoice entity or the product entity. We don't want any of that. We just give us a clean system and let us build all the entities that we want. And of course, that's what we got with the Power Platform. So.
And there was there were some great ISVs out there that were building things that were nothing to do with it as well. Yeah. I mean, if you remember the time,
you needed ISVs then. You needed it. Well, you don't need them as much these days. You needed them then.
Yeah, no, you did. I mean, I worked with a guy that wrote the voice of the customer, and he made a bit of a living out of it, and then sold that into Microsoft. And
something for, what was that called? Mojo Forms or something?
Mojo Forms, yeah.
Yeah.
So we used to work together at Aspective at the time. So he was So Simon was a contractor there working on the projects whilst doing this too. So. Like
he's retired, living in the Bahamas now that Microsoft bought him out?
I don't know if he is, actually. I probably need to reach out to him after this after this call and see how he's getting on.
How much bank did he make from back then? Because they didn't acquire his company, right? They acquired the IP, my understanding, which was unusual because at that time Microsoft was vacuuming up companies left, right, and center. They did, what is now Field Service. Back then, what was the name of the company? They vacuumed that up. They
the PSA tool, the PSA ones.
I mean,
there were
tool,
Unit 4.
There was a gamification company. They bought in a whole range of them. Yeah.
Interesting, they never bought a marketing one because there were loads then as well. Communicator.
Yeah, they did. They bought a product called Marketing Pilot. It was absolutely the biggest.
I remember that one.
Shit ever.
That is. That is true.
Pile.
I did forget about that one. That's probably one of them things that the reason why you probably forget is because it wasn't exactly the best tool.
Yeah.
We always thought should they buy Click Dimensions, or what was the other one at the time? Click Dimensions or Core Motives, wasn't it? Were the main two at the time. Yeah. So
and of course Click, because I thought they would have acquired Click. I mean, that many times I thought they would have, especially but I mean, hey, Click made bank, right? I mean, I think they must have been one of the most successful ISVs. I think he sold the company for $60 million when he sold it to VCs. That's a bit of coin.
That's brilliant. Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, coming from that, we used the Microsoft platform at the time for pretty much just building all sorts of stuff, Mark.
Yeah. Which is absolutely why I've been attracted to it. How many years were you doing that before you decided to chuck in your towel and walk away from Microsoft?
So it was probably only 2021 that I probably did that. So what's that?
Wow.
15 or so.
I didn't realize it was so recent that you walked and you left the Microsoft ecosystem only in 2021. So what, COVID had got you down, got you depressed, and you decided to...
I think it was probably... Yeah, I mean, so many projects... So the way that we used to run projects, we used to run large-scale projects and really quick projects, and we used to turn them around quite quickly. So I moved to a partner, which is probably one of the best moves I ever did, really, was moved to a partner called 0 to 10.
Yes.
If you remember, you remember 0 to 10 at the time.
Knew them well because they were big in the US, right? They kicked off that model of, Gus Gonzalez developed his career in 0 to 10 in the US. Now working at Microsoft, but they were masters of a rapid turnaround cycle and a business model that no other partners were doing, right?
And the guy that invented that business model, Patrick Lewis, he was a guy that was just ahead of his time. Yeah, the way that he saw the market and the way that he saw how customers should really adopt CRM is not really going to a partner and getting the partner to do it to them. This was 8-10 years ago, so we were kind of delivering solutions in an agile way, but agile wasn't really formed then. People were still doing waterfall, and we were doing quick engagements. And the model that he saw that was successful was, well, let's actually get the customer to to give us some of their admins, and let's bring them into the fold, and let's get them to do some of the configuration with us, and let's enable them to do it, because when we then come to leave, they can pick up they can pick up the basic stuff, and they're not just coming to us and saying, by the way, can you now add these 2 fields? And then you have to spend 16 days trying to put a statement of work together do you know what I mean? So it enabled them to do. So that concept 10 years ago, it was just ahead of the game. And it just got my brain thinking. And that's when we got into videos, and we a little bit like yourself, where if we were having the same conversation 2 or 3 times with the same customer, we'd just create a video. We'd then set that as homework, get them to watch that video. And then, I'm not wasting my time. I'm not wasting their money from me telling them stuff that I can just get them to watch a video. So he was really ahead of the game. And it kind of changed the way that I thought about delivering CRM and solutions, to be honest.
So the reason for leaving?
So the reason for leaving was the fact that, probably COVID burnt me out. You kind of think, I was leading the D365 team. So at 0 to 10, it got acquired by FullScope. It then got acquired by Alithia, and it just got really big. And the sales director at the time, he moved us to basically just moved the UK arm and moved us to A&S at the time. And I think
I didn't realize that A&S is the
that's the UK arm of Alithia.
Wow. Heck, yes. I had no idea. Okay.
Yes. So we became then A&S's D365 arm, basically, which was born from what we did at Alithia. So why did I leave? I probably just, how many times can you talk about sales processes? How many times can you talk about what's the difference between a lead, a contact, and an opportunity? Yeah. And it just got... I'm just thinking, I just need something else. And I can remember speaking with Chris probably about five years ago, and we're talking about the Power Platform, and it's not just about building solutions, it's more than that, it's about enabling things. He then moved on to Microsoft, or he was at Microsoft at the time. And I just kind of got a buzz with low code at the time, or Power Platform, but it was so... The way that the market was talking about it, the way that Microsoft were talking about Power Platform at the time was quite immature. The way that the partners were talking about it was quite immature. I mean, people were kind of building games. I don't think people really knew what to build. They were just trying to prove what the technology was, and they were just talking about how great the tech is. And it's like, there's so much more to it than tech. Yeah, how do you actually enable a customer? What value does this bring to a company? And during my time before I got to it as well, I started getting obsessed with more around the adoption side of Dynamics 365.
Interesting.
So actually, it's not just about the projects, it's understanding what the outcomes that they're trying to achieve, and then feeding that through the project, and then making sure that they're adopting those outcomes and they're measuring those outcomes and just driving adoption. So I ended up getting myself ProSci certified, ended up working with a Microsoft CSMs quite closely. So I ended up working with a number of the CSMs there, and I kind of got that buzz. So a combination of probably wanting to get out of Dynamics 365, wanting to focus on low code, wanting to try and challenge myself and get out of tech and maybe do a different career path. I ended up getting offered an opportunity to join Mendix. So one of the CSMs that was at Microsoft probably maybe 5-6 years ago, he'd gone to Mendix. He was looking for a CSM. I read up a little bit more about Mendix. I knew of Mendix at the time, and I ended up reading some of their stuff. I ended up reading their digital execution manual, and it just blew my mind.
Sounds
absolutely
amazing.
Just blew my mind in terms of how they spoke about it. I did my research, and even though Microsoft Power Platform, what's that, 2014, 2015, when it probably came out, looking at Mendix's history, I think they formed in 2002. So low code has been around for a long time. It's not a new concept. And how they were talking about it, and some of their enterprise customers, and the journey that they had, and the journey that they had laid out, I just wanted to immerse myself in it, Matt, and also invest in myself.
So tell me about Mendix, because obviously they've been in my peripheral for as long as the Power Platform's been discussed. And what are your thoughts on Mendix? And just perhaps if you want to do a synopsis of what their focus was, what they do, and I think the listeners would find that interesting.
Yeah, so Mendix is another low code application platform. If you look at the Gartner reports and the Forrester's reports, it's always in the top three. Well, if you look at the Gartner report, it's always the number one. It's always the one that's out there in the front.
I don't look at that. I only look at Forrester's report.
You look at Forrester's. That's because Microsoft overtook them. Yeah, I get it. I think that might change. I think maybe Mendix took the eyes off the Forrester's one and just focused maybe too much on Gartner. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
they didn't take the right people out for lunch and dinner and
maybe
and a holiday in the Seychelles or something.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, as in terms of a tool itself or an application development platform, it's kind of aimed at both. Again, I think we all hate the term citizen developer, but it's kind of aimed at both. And so you take the top three. There's the top three players in the low code space, and that's Mendix, OutSystems, and Microsoft. Not in that order, being the leaders. No. Yeah. And you probably look at all them three, and you even look in that top right-hand quadrant of the Gartner one, you've got Appian in there, and you've got Salesforce and ServiceNow. Yeah. But Appian's more around probably business process modeling. Mendix was kind of the one that was aimed between citizen developers and pro developers. So it had its own, it had a tool that was click and drop, a little bit like the Microsoft config tools, as well as like its own Studio Pro aimed at developers extending it and doing more stuff to it. Where OutSystems is probably more, from what I researched, my opinion, it's probably more aimed at the pro dev.
And ServiceNow.
ServiceNow it's got its own tool, hasn't it? It's more built on top of its service desk tooling.
Yeah.
So I don't think you really use a ServiceNow low-code tool to plug to SAP or anything like that. But with Mendix and OutSystems and Microsoft, you can now extend and keep the core clean is essentially what we were talking about at Mendix, where they were quite close to SAP. So were OutSystems and so are Microsoft. You now see the SAP connectors for that are out for Microsoft, but it was all about, well, actually keep the core clean with SAP and snap low code over the top and connect to it, and you can extend it and throw it away. And then if you change your mind, you're not investing thousands of pounds on over-engineering SAP and just get it to do what it should do. A little bit like what we did with CRM. Yeah, people used to extend it, and it used to get all sorts of different ugly heads that you just shouldn't have really used that tool for that job. So it's a tool that's that caters for that. Two different sides of the coin in terms of pro dev and citizen dev, as well as it's more external focused as well. So you can literally build apps that you can download off the app source or things like that. Yeah. So I saw really great solutions that were external facing, that basically banks were using Mendix. So basically people could download and access their bank details via a Mendix solution.
So so much more you could do consumer-facing apps, not just
which is
interesting.
Absolutely. So therefore, when I went into Mendix, it was a lot of the time it was Mendix versus Microsoft or Mendix versus OutSystems. And as the Gartner model started changing and the market started changing, it was like, I mean, what's the stat? Gartner saying that in 2005, which is a couple of years away, companies will have probably 4 or 5 low-code platforms in their estate doing different things. So I was working with the companies there, and I was working with them to build decision trees. When should you use Mendix? When should you use Power Platform? When should you really use ServiceNow? And some of the companies that I was talking to, when they actually went out and started talking to the business, some of them had 7 out there and thinking, crikey. Wow. I think we need to now try and get this down to 2 or 3 as opposed to having 7. The finance team were waiting on IT to try and do something for them. And in the meantime, whilst IT were focusing on probably sorting out their data, they went out and bought Brighter or something like that. So there's all sorts of low-code application tools out there now.
Interesting. Being in Mendix, were they worried about Microsoft? I
would say yes. Why would you not? Yeah. But I think what the language ended up changing to was actually, how can they coexist?
Interesting.
Yeah. So we ended up changing the model. And I was working with really large enterprise customers, both in manufacturing and professional services. And some of these professional services organizations, they had they had OutSystems and Mendix. That one didn't really make any sense having both of them two in your real estate. But with Microsoft, yeah, if it's quick, easy, and it's internal business processes, why potentially use Mendix when Power Platform will do the job? So it was more talking about coexisting, and then the argument was, well, the first argument really is, do you buy or do you build? Yeah, so if you buy something off the shelf, absolutely fine. But if you're building, okay, now is it low code versus custom dev?
Yeah.
Okay. And then if it was low code, okay, now which is the right low code solution depending on your use case that you're trying to actually achieve? So it was all understanding the business solution first, or the business problem first, before you then define which is actually the right low code tool for that job. If you're wanting to build a mobile responsive solution that people can download off app source that they can then connect to their data from an external perspective, would you really choose the Power Platform for that? You could, but is it the right tool for the job? Yeah. So it was more of a coexisting discussion as I started going through my time at Mendix.
What do you think they do better than the Power Platform in your opinion?
So it's quite interesting because some of the guys in the team now have actually gone through the rapid training for Mendix, and some of them actually quite enjoy that user interface and the ease of building solutions. Some of the solutions that I saw didn't even look like low-code solutions, but you could probably say that about Power Platform as well. What do they do? What do they do different? They probably class themselves more as a one-stop shop. So everything's built into their tool, and and what I mean by that is it's got its own way of tracking epics and user stories within its own tool set. Yeah, you didn't have to have DevOps to push it. You didn't have to build pipe, so you didn't have to have loads of different products. It had it all built in. You didn't have to install a COE toolkit. It's already had its own monitoring solution in there that you could tap into. So it was pretty much a one-stop solution that you were working within, if that makes sense.
What did they do better from a marketing perspective?
I'd probably just say, well, I mean, if you look at the Gartner report, that's probably one of the weaknesses that it says Mendix is. But I think how it talks about low code and how they educated us when we came on, it's don't fixate on what the use case is. Yeah, we're trying to push the platform here. It's a capability. Yeah, it's not just one thing. And whenever new salespeople came in, it's like, what's the use case that I'm trying to sell? What's the use case that I can get into with this customer? It's like, you're not quite understanding this. This is a platform kind of a speak. Yeah, so we should be looking at trying to get 3 to 5 solutions that we're trying to solve, as opposed to just trying to fixate on one. And then they were building all sorts of different solutions in their Mendix marketplace that people could download. So I mean, from a marketing perspective, it's probably just a different language, if that makes sense. But now I think Microsoft have probably caught up with it. I won't say caught up with it, but they use that same language as well. I can remember listening to Ryan's keynote speech, and I mean, what did he say? Low code is not just about technology anymore. It's about everything else. Yeah, it's about how you roll out low code. It's how you get people ready. It's how you roll out them capabilities and scale and change how people work. So that's been the refreshing change, I think, over the last couple of years on how Microsoft are now starting to talk about low code as well.
And I know I'll make this my last question about Mendix. Do you think they've had the opportunity to be acquired? Like I would see, an Oracle acquiring them. I could see an SAP acquiring them, to fill out their kind of solution portfolios.
So they already did. Yeah, so they already got acquired. So they got acquired probably about 3-4 years ago. Quite a nice sum. They got acquired by Siemens.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so okay. Siemens are huge. Yeah, they do all sorts from building trains to but they ended up being an IT company as well, because they obviously needed a platform to be able to produce all the manufacturing stuff. So they actually acquired Mendix as a bolt-on to their Team Center solution at the time. And that's what was quite nice, that when I came in, I got aligned to the manufacturing and professional services industries, because Siemens is a manufacturing industry. It unlocked all sorts of huge enterprise customers that were using their Team Center technology opened all sorts of different things up there in terms of that manufacturing market.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think OutSystems is probably the only one that's not being acquired. I might be wrong, but
And so you obviously didn't stay there. When did you turn around and came and leave Mendix?
So I left Mendix pretty much just a year ago. Just over a year. So I mean the role there, it was great. I got to as a customer success and working as part of the digital execution team. I got to understand customers that were my portfolio of customers were pretty much at the different stages in their journey. So some of them were starting out with low code and Mendix. Some of them were basically already at the structure stage, while some of them were at scale, building hundreds of solutions on Mendix. So I got to see the whole spectrum, which was quite nice. I got to see how companies were structured or trying to structure themselves from an app dev perspective. Do they take the centralized model or the decentralized model in terms of a DevOps model? So it was quite nice just seeing that. I got to talk to partners as well, because obviously there was a partner network there. So some of my customers, they would have a number of different partners working for them. So I got to understand the partners and how they positioned and talked about low code as well. So it really opened up my eyes to something that I would never have done if I'd just stayed in the Dynamics 365 market at the time. So why I came back, it probably just felt the right time, to be honest. I can remember Chris calling me up and saying, hey, do you fancy coming and joining at Accenture and things like that? And I'm kind of thinking, I was actually talking to the CEO and the COO at the time at ANS. They wanted me to come back and start up, well, not start up, but kind of take the low-code practice to another level as well. So basically, I just counteracted it with Chris and just said, well, actually, what about joining me here and let's build this new vision on what we were thinking with the Power Platform here at ANS. So that's pretty much what we did. So it just felt like the right time. It felt like the right time because when I was talking to partners before, they were fixated on just building solutions. And what Mendix were trying to do, they were building their own digital execution practice, trying to actually work with their partners to try and expand the platform within their customer base. So I kind of saw that as kind of like an opportunity, to be honest. And now you've got the ecosystem terminology that's banded around, that's coming around, and it's all now about enabling your ecosystems and things like that, which was all born from Chris's head and what I was seeing as the gaps within the low code partner network, to be honest. Yeah, because everybody was just fixated on building the solutions.
Tell me about culture at ANS. You have attracted some of the absolute rock stars in the UK community into the business. I see more and more, people saying, hey, I've just joined ANS. When I lived in London, I've only heard of ANS in the last 2 years. I never came across them at all while in London. That was why it was interesting to hear the history just then. Is it the best partner to work for in the space in the UK? I
enjoy working here, Matt. I wouldn't have returned otherwise. So I always enjoyed the culture. Yeah, that was the main thing, and they're always looking at the latest technology. And I mean, investing in AI now, and what does Copilot mean, and things like that. But from a cultural perspective, never had an issue with the culture. It's a northern based mindset, if that makes sense. They have fun. Everybody works hard, but they have fun doing it as well. So, cultural wise, I think it's great. Now, attracting, has it probably changed over the last 12 months? Yes, I think if you bring somebody like Chris in as well, who's big in the community and well known in the community, that obviously brings in a different mindset. We're getting heavily involved in the community a lot more than what we used to do as well. And it's more for just I wouldn't say it's brand awareness, but it's more of we're seeing the team growing and contributing more in the community than what they've ever done as well. I mean, people are talking at the local communities, they're talking at the bigger events, so it's just great to see. I think the community, I think the culture it was great, and I think it's got better over the last 12 months, if I'm honest. And some of the names that have joined, the likes of your Janets and your Kyles and your Dans, and these are your names in the community. It's great just seeing their perspective and merging the two together, and the customers can only get a great experience from all these different mindsets pulled together. Yeah. It's quite interesting trying to rein all them different mindsets in and trying to merge the two different visions on what good is, that look, what does it look like. But we're getting there, and that enablement piece, the ecosystem piece, and how we deliver the portfolio is quite unique.
Fantastic. The last little topic area I want to chat on before we wrap things up is your fascination on tubes, as in, and what I'm talking about specifically, of course, is...
I've even got a sign there, look.
Yeah, look at that, low code, is tube maps.
Low code tube station.
Tell us about tube maps.
So it was basically I find it the easiest way to articulate the journey, because everybody's going on a journey, and you've got to start somewhere, and it's not always just one straight line. It's not just one road. It's a number of different things. It's not just about the solutions that you're building, which is what we call the portfolio. It's not just about the platform that you've chosen, and how you lock down the platform. It's not just about the people. So there's different people journeys. So depending on where you are, you bring on different people in the journey. So the best way that I find to articulate it is a little bit like a tube map. These are all the stations of basically like a city. And if you went to London, Mark, and if I went to London, we'd probably maybe go to a different. We'd probably choose different tube stations to get off at, and our experience at that tube station will be probably different as well. But it's nice just to see the fact that, okay, well, you need to understand your platform. So what is it that I need to understand the platform? So I need to understand ALM, I need to understand DLP, I need to understand all sorts, the security, the toolkits that I can do for monitoring. So you've kind of got different stations, but you don't always have to stop at them. There's not a path that you have to do this one after this one after this one. You can kind of just go to one station and then go to another one and then come back to another one. So it was just great to kind of visualize it that way, and also break out the platform from the processes as well. So once you've locked down your platform, and then that's where your structure kind of comes in. Well, actually, what are your processes? So what do you think about your UI UX design? What's your change management processes? So there's all sorts of different things there. So I just thought it was the best way to try and articulate a journey, and it's not one size fits all, and it doesn't have to be in a specific order, and I can go to that station or I can go to that station, and it's a little bit like a hop on, hop off kind of a mindset. And what I'm now starting to see as well is another company just saying, you know what your co-pilot destination is, these are the stations to get to. So I'm now starting to see other people starting to use that tube analogy as well, which is quite interesting to see, to be honest.
Very British. It works well in that market. I don't know if it translates into mine the same.
Probably not.
But for anybody that's, of course, been in the UK, it totally makes sense. But I really like it. I like the way it and I like so much in IT, right? It is putting it in terms that non-technical people can understand and be able to feel empowered by it, which I think, why I see it being so effective.
Definitely,
Jason,
definitely.
It's been a pleasure to have you on the show. I appreciate it. Are you going to be at Dynamics Minds in
I'm not planned on being, but I know Chris has put it down as one that he's attending, so I'll definitely take a look at it and consider it. Are you going as well, Mark?
Yeah, as in I think I'll be the traveller that will come from the furthest afield location in the world to the event. So it's a bit of trouble. You must be.
There's no excuse for me to not get there then, yeah?
Honestly, transportation for anyone should not be an excuse. But I'm going to land into London like 3 or 4 days before it, and just catch up with a few folks, hopefully, in the community that I used to hang with while I was over there, and then make the way across there. And I'm not sure how I'll get across there, whether it'll be trains, planes, or automobiles. So, or all of them, because you can definitely take a train all the way there. And how I know that is because I have trained from Venice to Milan, and I've trained from Milan to Paris, and I've trained from Paris to London. So I assume it's the same type of deal. And then at Venice, it's about an hour away by car or something, I understand.
Right. It sounds like a bit of a road trip as well then. So it's always good to just catch up with people over a beer or two. We never really got the chance in Vegas when you were at MPPC.
So
you're a bit of a busy man.
It'll be our chance at this one.
Okay. So we can have a proper chat over a beer, and all sorts of conversations come out once you've had a bit of alcohol.
I like it. Cheers, mate.
Yeah, great. Thanks for that, Matt. Much appreciated.
Hey, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Business Application MVP Mark Smith, otherwise known as the NZ365 Guy. If there's a guest you would like to see on the show, please message me on LinkedIn. If you want to be a supporter of the show, please check out buymeacoffee.com/NZ365 Guy. Stay safe out there and shoot for the stars.